Hello and welcome to another episode of What Travis Says, the only show on YouTube where we do not let our love of jelly beans come between us and making a video. I say that because my tongue is red. Just like in yesterday's video, if you may have noticed that. I'm not gonna stop eating jelly beans though. But this video is not about jelly beans. My name is Travis and let's talk about how I am apparently a Moffat yes man. On one of my videos about Bill last week, there was a commenter that left this horribly long, painfully typed out comment about how apparently I wasn't a true fan. Really, the most upsetting part about his whole spiel was the way that it was put together. After a lot of commas, there weren't spaces. After a lot of periods, there weren't spaces. There was a whole bout of capitalization. It was just a mess. The dude had some serious aggression issues towards me for thinking that Bill might be a positive addition to the show. How dare me, right? He's one of those Doctor Who classicists that believe that the show will never be as good as it once was, that New Who fans are idiots, that black and white is superior, and make Doctor Who great again. The way I see it, if you're a New Who fan, that's fine. If you've never seen a classic episode and you've only watched 9 and on, that's cool. Just don't call David Tennant the second Doctor and Matt Smith the third Doctor, that's all I ask. But there is one thing that this classicist said that kind of stuck out to me, and in so many words, he called me a Moffat yes man. Now I make videos based on the information that I find interesting. I give my thoughts and then I share them with you. I have a somewhat positive ideology with things that I can't experience right then, so subsequently I can't adequately judge them. For example, when I see a movie trailer 4 out of 5 times I think, that movie could be decent, because I can't watch the film to give it a passing judgment because I can't experience the whole thing. I'm just seeing a trailer. And even when I see the film, I have a somewhat positive outlook coming from that experience. Unlike a critic, I actually want to enjoy things. I don't generally come out of a movie feeling that that was an awful experience, except for Norm of the North. That was just a mistake. But when I talk about Doctor Who in an exciting, optimistic way, the episodes aren't out yet, and I have an optimistically hopeful viewpoint on what it could possibly be. That being said, I want to just explicitly state that I'm not a Moffat yes man. I'm not an anything yes man. I love Spider-Man comics, but I have no problem calling out awful storylines like Maximum Carnage. Carnage is one of my favorite villains when he's done correctly, but Maximum Carnage is just bad. It's poorly written, it's mindlessly violent, the team-ups don't make any sense. The reason that Carnage comes back is that Cletus just wills him back into existence. It doesn't make any sense. It's just a bad storyline. So today I decided to do a video talking about the things that Moffat has done with his shows that I'm just not really a fan of. In the Forest of the Night is one of those episodes. It's just bad. And Moffat doesn't seem to handle criticism with that episode very well, saying that the fans are wrong and that future generations will grow to love it. I'm not a time-traveling historian, but I don't think In the Forest of the Night is going to be Doctor Who's Mallrats. But aside from specific episodes, there are things that Steven Moffat does that sort of shy away from it being, you know, happenstance and coincidence and becomes more of like a calculated pattern. As I just mentioned, Moffat is not one to handle criticism very well. There was a reviewer of Sherlock back in 2012 who criticized the portrayal of Irene Adler as sexist. Moffat didn't handle that too well. Now, I'm not here to discuss sexism in Sherlock, but the way that Steven Moffat reacted to the question if Sherlock was sexist was like a toddler throwing a temper tantrum. And there are things that Moffat does in Doctor Who that it doesn't carry the right amount of weight that I feel that he thinks it should. Like, he brings characters back from the dead all the time, and it doesn't matter because it happens all the time. Or when the Doctor comes so close to certain doom and we're not worried because we know that it happens in every single episode, and usually we know the exact episode when the Doctor is going to regenerate, so it takes a lot of weight and pressure and stress off of the show where there should be anxiety for these characters that we care about. And a lot of the times there are these overly complicated plots which sometimes pay off, but most of the time they don't make any sense on why they were so complicated. There's so many additional complications that just don't need to be there. And sometimes the plot builds up to this huge epic thing and then nope, never mind, let's just tie it off with a quick bow and move on, or let's just entirely forget about that plot point because who's really gonna notice? Alright, moving on from plot, let's talk about the actual characters themselves. Remember Nancy from The Doctor Dances? On the DVD commentary, Moffat says that the Doctor, when he's piecing it all together, realizes that Nancy was a teen mom and thinks, you slut, you little slapper, That's not cool. Moffat takes Nancy, this wonderful character with a great story arc and characterization from an episode that he wrote, and reduces her to a slut. We don't even know the circumstances of Nancy getting pregnant. It's never explained in the episode, but it doesn't need to be. For Moffat to say that those are the thoughts going through the Doctor's mind, No. Moffat's portrayal of women is probably one of his biggest pitfalls, and I read an article recently which highlighted some of his worst examples. The Doctor describes Clara as a mystery wrapped in an enigma squeezed into a skirt that's just a little bit too tight. The Doctor describes Marilyn Monroe as the stereotypical man-crazy ditz that she played in some of her movies. Rory likens being married to Amy to being trapped inside of a robot duplicate of her. We get dialogue like, "Why did she try to kill you and then try to marry you? Because she's a woman." Osgood, a scientist, is shown to be secretly obsessed with jealousy towards her prettier sister. When a Dalek develops a female alter ego, she spends her time cooking. Oh, and when we're introduced to River, she seems like an amazingly promising companion. Curious, intelligent, brilliant even, and so full of love for the Doctor. But then we find out that River only really exists for the Doctor. Besides her first appearance, she doesn't really act like an academic or a scientist ever again in the show. Sure, we see River's timeline out of order, so it's to be expected that we're going to see some immature moments and some childish moments, some mistakes, but when do we see her have that intellectual curiosity? When she regenerates, she's concentrating on a dress size, and then for the rest of the episode, she's obsessing over her clothes, weight, hair, shoes. River's instability is finally conquered by the love of a good man. This just seems incredibly patronizing. And as a man, it's hard to see past the prepackaged, sugary, marketed, unearned emotions that these characters' relationships just keep on churning out. That being said, as much as I disagree with the way that Moffat writes a lot of his content, it doesn't mean that I'm going to stop watching the show. I am optimistically hopeful for this next season. I feel that Bill could be a great addition to the show, but if it's not executed correctly, the BBC will definitely hear about it. There's been some talk lately about a political correctness pendulum where things are kind of bad, but then political correctness sends it over to the other side, and now that's another extreme, and it just needs to come back, and it will eventually equalize itself out. But just because that bill might not be executed perfectly does not mean that the BBC should not try. Trial and error is important, and we should not fault the BBC if there are some missteps along the way. But I do have high hopes, especially considering how passionate Pearl Mackie is about her character's portrayal. There are plenty of other examples of things that I don't agree with that Moffat has said and done, but I don't want this video to be hours and hours long. So in the comments down below, let me know your opinions of Moffat. Do you like him as a creator and you don't really see much of this as a problem? Or do you hate him and you just want things to change? Or are you just kind of indifferent? Where are you at on the how is Moffat doing scale? As always, my name is Travis. Thank you for listening to What I Have to Say, and you will see me tomorrow.